My name's Tim Rudd. I ran for the 15th district in 2015 against Ryan McMahon, and I ran on transparency and accountability and process and all that, and I lost. But it was a good fight, and then I eventually got elected to the city council in 2017, and I was on the council for 3 years. And I was the finance chair until the budget director retired, and then I took over and became the budget director for the city and worked for the mayor. I'm from Syracuse, so born and raised, went to city schools my whole life, graduated from Henniger, was able to go to Syracuse University because of the Syracuse Challenge at that time, which became Say Yes. So I understand firsthand the importance of making pathways for people to be able to grow and thrive in this community. From there, I actually kind of like taught in city schools, subbing, and traveled a bit before I went to graduate school. I got an MPA at the Maxwell School with a focus in state and local finance because I really thought the intersection of finance and policy is where a lot of influence lies. And my interest in government has always been that there's a lot of things we can do together that we can't do alone. And I've taken it very seriously to build my skills and capacities to be able to do those things that we should be doing together that we can't do alone. After graduate school, I went to New York City and I worked in the mayor's office of management and budget in the Bloomberg administration for 3 years. Then I actually moved home and bought my house that I had fixed up for a dream job as the assistant budget director in the school district, which turned out to be a nightmare job that I did not like and I did not stay in. After 3 months, I left, and within a month, I was working at MDRC back in New York City, which is a social policy research group that was created in the 70s by the Ford Foundation to evaluate the poverty programs of the 60s. And my role was they do random assignment studies of all types of innovations that are supposed to help low-income people. And my role was to do benefit cost analysis. So looking at how much things cost, how it would be different with different people in different places at a different scale, how that compares to the economic benefits. I got to work on a bunch of cool projects. I did that 3.5 years in New York, 3.5 years remotely from Syracuse. So 7 in total. I learned that working remote gets old eventually, before most people do. And the city council stuff, I got 1 minute left. Wow, I'm doing good. So I live on the south side on Glenwood Ave, right next to Elmwood Park. I basically have like a waterfall in my backyard, so I think I have the coolest house in the city. I've done a lot to make my block better. There've probably been about 7 demolitions within 1 block of my house, try to make the spaces green, give people side yards. I have 1 side yard that's my family's personal garden that we invest a lot of our time and energy into. And we don't have a TV, so it gives my kids something to do. And then we go to the park every chance we get, and we try to make the park clean and safe and vibrant. And basically my whole heart is in Syracuse. I do all I can to make it as good a place as I can. There are no simple answers. We have serious issues. I try to be thoughtful all the time, and I try to be serious, and I try to be passionate and do my best. And that's what I'll do in the county. I'm going to work with people, and I'm going to get things done.
Hello? Okay. I never know with the mics. Good afternoon. I want to thank the coalition, CNY Solidarity Coalition, for putting this on because, we need to have these conversations as a community. Also want to thank you all for coming out. It's very hot, so you all, brave the weather to get out here. I appreciate you all, caring about what's going on. I'm going to introduce myself and then tell you a little about why I'm hoping to serve this community in the 15th district. So for starters, my name is Maurice Brown. I think that housing, healthcare, and education are human rights, and I think a government has a duty to protect those rights for every child, every person in our community, and that's what I want to fight to do. About me, I served in the Army. I was a military police officer, deployed twice. I was also the regional director for the Working Families Party in this area, so I've worked in the political arena a little bit, and currently I work at OCC as a student advisor. I'm a member of NYSIT, Teachers Union. They endorsed our campaign, and the other union, the union candidate, because 1199 also endorsed our campaign because they know my work. I'm going to work as hard as possible for this community. Specifically, I want to make some real changes in this community. I can talk at length about all of them, but the biggest 2 that I'm going to be focused on are transportation and housing. partially because they're so important, but also because some things have happened that have made it possible so that we can make some real progress in those areas. And I want to capitalize on that movement at the state level and the federal level. For transportation, I would like light rail. I want to be very clear, light rail is what we should be aiming for. However, the BRT project that's in process, I think we need to support it. And then eventually I do think we need to expand it, and it should be countywide. We need a bus rapid transit system. Missing your bus should not mean you have to miss the whole day of work. An efficient transportation system will allow you to get to work, but you can also stop and pick up your medication. You can also drop your kids at childcare. We deserve a bus system that's efficient. As far as housing, I want to invest in low-income and affordable housing. We obviously need to protect renters, but we need to work to make home ownership an attainable goal for anybody who wants to achieve it in this community. I think it's possible, and I'm going to fight so that we can all achieve that. I'll speak on specifics, but I did get the clock, so I'm going to keep my story short and just say that, and I'm looking forward to having this conversation with you all today. Thank you. It's a good question. Whoever submitted that, that's awesome. So there's a couple things we can do as far as housing right now. So for starters, we need to take serious steps to protect renters in our community. We're just coming out of a pandemic. There are literally days. There was a day last week where you couldn't breathe outside, and we're evicting people for non-payment. Like we can't be kicking folks out on the street. We have to take steps to work and help people. So whether that looks like, tax credits for landlords, or whether that looks like, working individually with specific renters, whatever that is, we need to be working towards that. I also think we need to be promoting more mixed use projects. So we do a lot of student housing, especially in this part of the community. I'm not against student housing. I think more housing is always better. However, it can't only be student housing. We need low-income housing. We need affordable housing. We need to diversify our housing stock. It can't just be all student housing along East Genesee Street. We need more for this community. So those are the things that I want to prioritize. And then the last thing, I'll talk about it a little bit. I wish I had time to just talk about this specifically, but there's federal money available for getting lead pipes out of homes. I think we need to seriously invest in that. I think all levels of government should be looking at it. I was canvassing in the Valley the other day, and someone told me an adult tested positive for lead because they drank it. And we should not have lead in our drinking water. We can do better than that, and we will, and that's what I'm going to fight to do.
So I am a landlord. I've lived in my house for 13 years, and my house is behind a house. So after 5 years, I bought the house from the landlord in front of me, and I've done everything I can to improve that house. A couple of years later, I bought another, what I would call slumlord property, and I fixed it and rent to people in the neighborhood. And I've done that 4 times on my block. It's a lot of work. It is not a lot of money, and I do it because I want my block to be stable and to thrive. And we live in a credit-based money system. The banks inject the money. The city just had a housing study that we paid for with some fancy consultants. One of the takeaways I took was that they say the GDP of Syracuse is basically $3.3 billion, and the money required to fix all the housing in the city of Syracuse is $3.7 billion. Okay, so we have a massive problem in housing, and it didn't start overnight. It's been for 50 years. And the main reason is that you're supposed to dedicate a third of your income to housing if you're being responsible with your budget. And there's lots of people in this community who a third of their income doesn't support a housing unit. So you have a number of housing units that have been divested over time, and that creates a big problem. And it takes real work. We need investment. So I'm pro total development downtown. I think we need thousands more people with Micron happening. We need a disproportionate share of the development to happen in the city, really in the urban core. So that University Ave. We have this weird thing here. We talk about student housing. We need housing, okay? So we need density and vitality, and those are going to be expensive projects where they're going to spend $90 million making $350,000 units that are going to have relatively high rent. But we need more people. And that's the only way we're going to avoid a bigger housing crisis. If we don't build more units, it's going to put pressure on all the other houses to be flipped, and that will actually create the problem of displacement. So we need to be thoughtful. It's not simple. It takes hard work. We need more people. We used to have 80,000 more people. We can have many thousands more people. That's the only way we're ever going to have the strength of community to actually deal with the concentrated poverty that we have. Small. We don't have enough people. We don't have enough people making income. So we need more people living in Syracuse who have money to spend. I really believe if you get the density downtown, that will create investment opportunities in the inner ring neighborhood, which has a lot of emptiness. I can speak to that personally. The emptiness is sad. That's why it's sad, because it's empty. The investment in the core and in the inner ring will create economic opportunities for the people who are already here. And that's the only way we're going to address the poverty. I do think there's room for the government to play a role to get people into homes. One of the things I talk about is a home ownership program for local home buyers. So target people who are on the cusp of being able to buy a home, give them a 10% credit up to the first $150,000. That would be $15,000 to the closing cost and down payment of the home. It's a good thing to do right now because we have lower than average house prices, and with all the Micron stuff, we may very quickly have higher than average prices. Really, the building of the equity in the home is the main way that people become middle class and can afford to invest in themselves and their community. I understand the issue of poverty from growing up here. I know what it's like to go to a high school where it's 700 people start and 350 finish, and you don't kind of wonder where the other, there's a real problem. And we've had that for many years. And there's no simple answer. And but I really do believe fundamentally in people. I think that when you work with people and you empower them to make good choices, there are people who haven't made the best choice to date. The government has a role to offer an opportunity to make a new choice. And I think that's what we need to do consistently. Talk about people's needs to make a good choice for themselves and for their family and build a pathway that is effective. I learned to do a lot of that at MDRC, where we evaluated all kinds of innovations to improve people's lives, where people often think they're doing something great, and often it turns out that the impact is less than what people think. Changing people's lives is hard to do. I think the government has an important role to play, and I try to be thoughtful about the best ways to do that.
Okay. So this question is tough for me. So I've always been a black man. I will never run from that. But one identity that I really do hold close to my heart is that I grew up poor. I grew up, lower class, and I love it. I think it made me who I am today. I think that we need to invest in transportation and housing. I'm gonna get redundant. You guys are gonna get tired of hearing this from me, but I really mean it. So if you look at social mobility, someone's ability to go from lower class to middle class or middle class to upper class, there's a direct causation between that and how long their commute is. If we can make it easier for people to get to work by investing in a serious busing system, it'll make it a lot easier for people to get to jobs. So with the Micron project coming in, we actually have a really unique opportunity in workforce development that I think we should take advantage of. So I work at OCC. OCC is going to have a program for young people with an associate's degree. You can get your associates, do a one-year certificate program, and then you can have a $70,000 job. That's huge. We need to make that opportunity available for all our young people, not just the young people who can afford cars. We need to make that something that everyone can take advantage of. And then last, I'm going to talk about housing. We have to protect our housing stock. If folks are, too busy wondering, where they're going to sleep that night, it's really hard to look for a job. It's really hard to do anything, if we're being perfectly honest. So I think we need serious investments in those things, and that's what I'm going to fight for. Tom.
Start with mine.
Yeah, so I want to be really clear when I say this. I am as against the aquarium project as one could be. I think it's a bad decision, and for a bunch of reasons. So I actually just wrote a letter about this that I've promoted, so I can honestly just read verbatim the talking points. But for starters, it's a bad investment. If you look around the country, aquariums don't normally turn a profit without federal and state subsidies. Expecting our state and federal government to do that when we can barely afford fund our public schools consistently, that's just not smart business. So I don't think that we should just do a bad business thing just for business sake. But the biggest reason that I'm against it is because we have so many other priorities within this community. If you show me your budget, I don't care if you're a municipality, if you're a business, if you're a person, if you show me your budget, I can tell you what your priorities are. Budgets are moral documents. Our county's priority is not our people. Full stop. An article was written last year about Onondaga County is flushed with cash and looking for ways to spend it. And we came up with an aquarium. The county is not focused on our well-being. I don't think the role of government is to make as most money as possible. I do think that at some point as a government, as a municipality, you do have to pay to protect your people. I don't think it's just make as much money as possible. I think we need to invest in people. An $85 million aquarium is not an investment in people. On top of it, the $85 million number was done before like 2022. I don't know if you all have been paying attention, but the price of everything has gone up. So we're probably gonna end up paying more for it. So yeah, I'm very against the aquarium project. Sorry if I ran. Yes.
In 2015, I said I ran against Ryan McMahon. I largely criticized his investment of $55 million, what I viewed as whimsically, without process, without public engagement, and without real certainty to invest in that amphitheater. And I did after the fact, it was going to happen, and I don't know, it happened anyways, it's there. The aquarium, I've knocked probably a bunch of your doors. I try to be straightforward. When people say, what do you think of the aquarium? I say, I think I'm not going to vote on it, because it's already voted for, and they already passed it. So I don't think I will ever vote on it personally. If you're really jazzed up about the aquarium, and you think yes, no, or the aquarium is the best thing to do with your county legislator, I'm not going to go fight a war over the aquarium. I'm going to go and try to get things done in this community based on moving forward. I definitely think there's other opportunities that we should have done with that money. I think the fact that you don't even finance it doesn't really make sense. It's a really irresponsible use of cash. But that legislature, before I got there, did it, and they're going to do it. And I hope that it drives investment into the Inner Harbor. I do think the Inner Harbor is an area where we can add many thousands more people. And again, that's part of this, like, we need to grow, we need many thousands more people. And as I said to somebody today, because the aquarium question comes up all the time, and it would be really easy to say, I hate that aquarium, I'm not going to do the aquarium, especially since I basically said that about the amphitheater before when I tried this. But 30 seconds. But what I said to someone this morning was like, I really hope we live in a community where we grow for the first time in a long time, and we get the investment in the urban core, and we become less poor, and the aquarium is not the conversation because it's just something that happened and it's not some catastrophe. I agree that if Micron and our growth, if we don't grow and we stay the same and we continue to get more poor, then the aquarium is the ultimate disaster and an insult. But hopefully we are on a different trajectory where we can look at that and say, hey, it's okay.
Ooh.
The city has a $100 million fund balance. If we spent every dollar on it, it wouldn't do much to the $3.7 billion that we have inadequate housing. We need to unleash private investment. That's the way it works. We need to get people to be creditworthy. They need to increase their income, so we need pathways for them to make responsible decisions and make investments in themselves. A third? Yes, roughly a third. Like, there are many communities when you go to other big cities where people are dedicating a half. By a third, am I saying 30%? Yeah, I'm basically saying 30% is roughly a third. It's a little more. But if you're paying less than a third, you're being responsible. But it doesn't undo the fact that we have many people who do not have the income to maintain a house. And until they earn more income, or until we dedicate like subsidies to like Section 8, like a basically add on top, that's the only way that people will be able to afford better housing, because otherwise the landlord will fix the housing because it doesn't pay for it. And like I said, if the city dedicated every penny in its fund balance, it would be a drop in a very, very, very large bucket. We need people coming in to build housing downtown, and that is the introduction of money into the economy. People work for that money, they spend that money into existence. That's how we get economic development. That is how we create opportunities broadly for people in the workforce. And that is how we lift all boats. And it sounds silly and it's easy to criticize, but really this is the economic model that we have. We are not changing the economic model of capitalism in this country in the county legislature. It's how do you need thoughtful people who get things done and will make the economy grow. I personally believe you have to do that through private investment, and that's where if we build new housing units, there should not be pressure on displacement. We have the bones for many more people. We need all the people who are here, and until we have more money flowing, we will remain largely impoverished. And there will be all the externalities that come with that we are all too familiar with.
Great question, Eric. So this is a learning process for me, and I will admit that. So I've been learning a lot throughout this. One of the things that I did learn was an issue I'm really passionate about. The county legislature has no say on, which is zoning. The rezone issue is coming up, and I think that we need less R1 zoning in our communities, so we need to increase the density. I think we should be looking at mixed use whenever possible. So the example, or I think one of the good projects that we've done that I think we should replicate was the Soul City Market. So if you look at it, there's housing, there's like shops, it's a full mixed use facility. We should do that. Like, I think we need to do more of that. I would love to have a Soul City Market on Westcott. That would be awesome. So I think we need to do that, but also when you look at like SIDA and OSIDA, a lot of times when they give like tax breaks to folks, it's student housing, it's luxury housing. I think those tax breaks should go to low income housing. I do. I think they should go to affordable housing. If you look, so the state has affordable housing like limits, and if you hit those, the state will help you fund your projects. I think we should be trying to hit those. I think that we got to work with the state, we got to work with the federal government. I want R1, I want more mixed use, I want more low income. I do think that we need to protect the housing stock we have. I don't want to just give up on it. Like, yes, we need new housing. I'm not ignoring that. However, there are people living with lead in their homes right now. I think that your housing, if you're just ignoring that, you're ignoring a large part of the population, and like, people need help. The county legislature, the role of government is to help people. And if we have money set aside for housing, I think some of that should look into getting lead pipes out of people's homes, getting the lead paint off of people's windows, et cetera, et cetera. I hope that answers.
Thank you, Tom.
So I'm very against the whole project, but that's just like even worse. So I do want to give credit where credit's due. Legislator Bill Kenny, he actually is calling for, a revote to happen due to the new information being presented. I think that we need to put a stall on the whole project until a full environmental impact statement has been produced. We have to look at the whole project. If you just look around here, 81, we've been studying that forever. If you look at the zoning proposal, that's going, like, everything in our community, we have to study, we have to restudy it, we have to do feasibility studies. But for this project, we're just rushing through. I think that doesn't make any sense. I will say, we don't share the defeatist attitude. I actually don't think it's over. I think at some point the legislature is going to have to vote on the new money. I don't think that $85 million number is enough. And I can guarantee you, if I'm your county legislator and that vote comes up, I will be a solid no vote, and I will be working my tail off to make sure everyone else is too.
If your number one issue is to stop the aquarium, you need to vote for Bill Kinney, because the only way to change it is to change the county executive. If you want somebody
vote for Bill Kinney.
And if you want somebody who's going to tar and feather Ryan McMahon over the aquarium and make it a mission to stop the aquarium, it's going to happen anyways, because it's the gerrymandered, I mean to be defeatist, but it's a gerrymandered mess. That's why Mo and I live in the same district. That's why this is the way it is. 62% Dems in this district. They piled the Dems in. Republicans are still going to control it. So I don't plan on tarring and feathering anybody over this because it already passed, and I want to get things done now. And like the idea that we found out it was poison 2 hours after, like, what did we think it was? I mean, we've degraded and disrespected that lake. Like, look, my picture is riding my bike with my kids from the creek walk. I take the creek walk. I have Furnace Brook behind my house. I hear it like everywhere. Furnace Brook runs to Onondaga Creek, which runs to Onondaga Lake. When I take my bike along that path, it is undeniable that the lake is the body, like it's our soul as a community. And we have like poisoned that, right? So we have these waterways that run through that we have largely disrespected until recently when we're starting to turn around and embrace that. The edges of the lake are polluted. They are not clean, and they should be. We should have a total awakening to that being like the history of this community and people coming together and uniting around that lake. There's nothing more serious and valuable than cleaning that lake and the way we treat it, the way we still dump raw, untreated sewage into the lake at certain times when there's overflows and all these other things. we should have a radical reawakening to the lake and to the way we're connected and treat each other. And I don't think that will come down to the aquarium personally, but I do believe there's a lot of work we have to do. I think the lake is a magical resource that has public access all around. There's not many lakes like that in the country. And I think it's going to be a major asset that we need to be really thoughtful about in the future. I think there's even an authentic way to make a cool aquarium where you can incorporate the history of degradation and environmentalism and all that stuff. It could be a way for kids in poverty, in the city, to have an awakening of, oh, we can make different decisions. We can invest in ourselves. We can fix what has been different before. Sorry to have gone over.
Thanks, Tim. So,
I think a lot of people probably here already have their minds made up before. I hope this gives you some chance. I think probably, in all seriousness, when people say what's the difference, I mean, I do think both Mo and I are thoughtful, hardworking. We're probably two of the hardest working people in the whole Democratic Party. If you judge that by petitions, if you judge that by doors knocked. And it's a travesty that we're in the same district. We should be going to the county ledge and we should be working together. But we live in a gerrymandered mess, and maybe that'll be different in about 8 years when the county elections are in even years, and then when we can have fair maps, which I supported as a counselor. And a lot of this change is going to be gradual. I do think like our kind of stance on housing is probably the most different. I definitely think there's a need to engage the private market. I think things like good cause that have like rent caps could be unintentionally catastrophic for the city, because we have a number of housing units where the rent doesn't support the maintenance of the housing. So if you put a cap on that, then you're kind of relegating your community to inferior housing. So I think there's a need to be really thoughtful about the externalities of the decisions we're about to make. And in general, I really, I'm going to be here no matter what. 235 Glenwood, I'm going to be working to make Elmwood Park the best park in the city, even though a lot of people think it's the second best park in the neighborhood. But like, my heart and soul is here. I'm here. You're going to see me walking up and down the 200 block of Glenwood, picking up the trash every day, regardless. Because I understand that the work in this community is every day. And I've learned to navigate relationships. I think I was the mayor's ultimate nemesis as a counselor, and now I'm essentially trusted by him. And I think I'm still trusted by the council. And I think navigating those kinds of relationships is not easy to do. We've seen in the past what happens when leaders don't prioritize managing those relationships, even when interpersonal conflict comes into it. And I'm going to do everything I can to work with everybody in the county legislature and in the city, and to be respectful and transparent.
The county legislature is going to be Republican held for the rest of our lives. I think that there's a lot of great work being done in this community, and I'm going to support that work. I want to say shout out to Blake Carter. He's running in Camillus. You all should get to know him, and you should get to support him. There are a lot of good people in this community that want to work to change our county government, and I'm one of those people, and I want to work with those people. This campaign isn't about me. My coalition, it's about us. It's about Blake. It's about Carrie and Malleus. It's about getting a big coalition together and figuring out how you can work together. I've been working really hard to improve this county, this area, this region that took me in since I got here. When I co-founded Uplift Syracuse, folks who have seen my work are supporting me at great lengths, and I'm super grateful for it. I've earned the endorsements of Senator Rachel May, Legislator Mary Kuhn, and I got those endorsements because they know my work. They've seen me. Labor unions like NICET and 1199 know my work. They've seen me. I want to introduce my work to you all. When I'm working for you, you're going to get results. I got national endorsements because of my work from groups like Our Revolution that supported Bernie and Bold Progressives that supported Elizabeth Warren. And I got it because they know my work and they know that I'm going to work for this community. I have a track record of following through, and I also have a track record of winning. We are going to start doing great things in this community. We can have nice things. We can have a great bus system. We can have, a clean lake. We have to start believing in those things. And this is the next step towards those things. I want to invite you all to learn more about me and my platform on my website, www.electmauricebrown.com. Also, send me emails. Reach out to me. I want to hear your thoughts. I know the answers are in this community, and I'm looking forward to working with you to present them.